Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? It's my first question. Excellent. Thank you, Bridget. Good morning. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Nancy and Mark, unless Mark is still sleeping. And if he is, good for him. I know what a calm time of year this is for Mark. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We can join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keeping the palms joined. Yeah, you can put the palms down. Sorry to wake you up, Mark. If it weren't for your Saturday morning 11 o'clock meditation, you could still be sleeping right now. And good morning, Carla. Good morning, Michelle. Good evening. Where are you? It's evening. All right, so welcome, everybody. Go ahead and get started with just a question, just to give time for everybody to settle in before we start meditation. Greece, that's a long way. Well, thanks for joining us from Greece. How about a very serious question this morning? Favorite vacation spot? If you're joining us for the first time, I usually just start with a little question just to get people communicating a little bit and give it time for the millions of followers to log on, as we probably are slowing down the internet airwaves. So there's a chat box on your screen there, as most of you know. Favorite vacation spot? I think, times like these where most of us are probably not traveling too much and most of us are staying inside. It's good to explore places we've been or places we'd like to go. I know sometimes people have a hard time staying motivated and excited about life, and so sometimes memories help, or the idea of looking forward to something often helps. I do hear from a lot of people, and that's one thing right now that I think is lacking in for many, is they're just their motivation. So hopefully motivation can pick up a little bit. Canadian Rockies, Tamales Bay, if I said that properly, Brazil, Japan, somewhere I haven't been, Ireland. Oh yeah, did I know you went to Koyasan, Samir? I don't know if I know that, because I was at Koyasan. Beautiful place. Mount Koya in Japan. It's the Kobodaishi, or Kukai, is the founder of the Shingon school of Buddhism. So there's a monastery up there. It's been there about 1,200 years. And it's just kind of its own little world. You take this really cool long tram straight up, and you can walk it too. Really beautiful place. I sent you there. Nice. I should be careful where I tell you to go, Samir. Michelle's been there as well. Yeah, it's wonderful. Kauai, upstate New York, a lot of wonderful places. La Paz, vacation. What's that? I know you've been somewhere in the last 20 years, Cynthia. Few more minutes. Where else? Your favorite place to go, or your favorite place you'd like to go? And then we'll get started with the meditation practice. Anything else anybody wants to share? Their favorite place to go? All right. So we'll go ahead and get started with a meditation. Santa Cruz. Never been to Santa Cruz. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing is going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences, most likely. Your mind will continue to race, as always. Don't judge your practice. Don't ask yourself, is it working or not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit and breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside, wherever you are. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, you want to slide to the front third, pushing your stomach forward, allows the back to straighten, shoulders are relaxed, hands can be on the knees or in the lap. If you're on a chair or a couch or whatever you sit in, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. I'll suggest closing the eyes as we begin, if comfortable, or slightly open. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And most important with the practice, don't expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open, mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Knowing throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds. Again, not distractions nor disruptions, simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply going to continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought, return attention, focus to the breath. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment, simply sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in, breathing out, follow breath out. and the speech, quiet, aware of all sounds. And the mind, learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. Began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's what we get. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one, is not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun, but meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else, becoming aware of what you think and say and do each moment. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But it's a practice. So with that, I'd like to stop and use it the rest of the time today to respond to your questions. I always prefer to address what's on your mind. So there's a chat box there. Again, if you're new, welcome. There's a chat box on your screen there. You can type in any questions, thoughts around meditation, Buddhist practice, anything I can address. And we'll use that for the rest of the time going forward. And in response to your comment, Samir, you always say nothing's going to happen. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. And then you say you got rid of a 30-minute or an anxiety attack with a 30-minute meditation. And I still say nothing's going to happen and you won't have any mystical, magical experience. So, but I'm glad it helped. Questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with that I can address. I'm glad everybody's so calm. No problem, Samir. Good to see you all calm and relaxed and clear-headed with everything figured out. Yeah, I'm going to touch on something briefly. My comment that just came in here. Dealing with loss. Yes, Marisa, I'll talk about that in a minute. But somebody had, let's see if I can read this. Somebody had, so I share a lot of stuff on social media that I like to make people think and challenge themselves. And someone wrote in and said that they had seen a lot of the comments that people were sharing. And they said that since I run a Buddhist temple, that they're surprised because they thought people would be more evolved in their thinking, but maybe not. And I responded by saying that just because I run a Buddhist temple doesn't mean that the people that follow social media are paying attention or even go to the Buddhist temple. It's two separate worlds. And their reply back to me was that they hope that none of these people have anything to do with the temple. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because my initial thought with that is, Buddhist temples are not these elitist places. They're not these places that pure-minded people go to. They're not these places that people free from anger and ignorance go to. All of you realize that because you're sitting here with me on a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock or whatever time it is in Greece. So we have this, I think, often this misconception or just a view that if you go to a Buddhist temple, that means something about you. If you go to a Buddhist temple, what that means to me is you're an absolute mess. No offense, of course. And I say this really from personal experience of the first time I went to a Buddhist temple, and from dealing with thousands of people over the years, people who go to a Buddhist temple, I was an absolute mess. And most people who come to Buddhist temples are an absolute mess. That's why we end up there. We don't go there because we're these peaceful, happy, pure people. So I bring this up just as kind of a caution that just because somebody is at or around a Buddhist temple, that doesn't mean anything about who they are. And another way to look at it is, if there are people out there that are filled with anger and ignorance and greed and hate, those are the people I want around a Buddhist temple. Because where else are they going to work on cutting through their ignorance and greed and hatred? So I think we just have to be very careful how we label people and isolate them from my world versus their world and my life versus their life. These people that you think carry so much hatred and animosity, according to that view, they're the ones that need the most help. So for me, a Buddhist temple has always been a place that is open and welcome to everyone. So regardless of whatever religion, whatever race, whatever gender identity, whatever sexual orientation, whatever ability, wherever you come from, just show up as you are. But if you are someone who is part of a Buddhist temple, please be careful with how we judge others. And hopefully in your mind and in your heart, you're as welcoming to them as you would want them to be to you. And just because other people or places might not be welcoming, that doesn't mean that we should follow that same line of or way of being. So I just wanted to throw that out there. People go to Buddhist temples are working on being accountable for the mess, and absolutely. And that's really what I'm getting at, is that most people who show up at places like this for meditation or to learn about Buddhism, they've reached a point where they need to learn to be accountable for it, because their messiness is ruining their lives or ruining the lives of others. Right? I think of it as, working a lot with the recovery community over the years. Someone who's not an addict, for the most part, doesn't continue to, work on that part of their life. They've chosen to enter a path of recovery because there's the addiction. People have chosen to work on their meditation or Buddhist practice because there's that addiction, the addiction to suffering, the addiction to craving, the addiction to desires, the addiction to greed, the addiction to all of these ways of thinking that are causing our suffering. So just wanted to put that into perspective, because it comes up every so often. Let me go back to, let's see, even if we're not a complete mess, we all need to keep working on our own levels of anger, ignorance, and greed. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you're not a complete mess. Maybe you're a partial mess. Maybe you're not a partial mess. Maybe you're a quarter mess. Maybe you're only 1/16 of a mess. But that mess is our greed, anger, ignorance, Dave, as you said. And that's really important for us to recognize. And that awareness and acknowledgement of our own dukkha, our own suffering, our own causes of suffering is extremely important. So thank you for sharing that. I can truly relate. That's why I came to DBT, and so grateful I did. I love that I'm practicing to be a better person through Buddhist practice. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bridget. And I will, Marisa, come back to your question about dealing with loss. Let me just follow this chain here for a minute. Have a jaw headache from gritting my teeth in my sleep. But I know you'd say if I asked you to talk about anxiety, breathe. I'm trying. Yeah, I think that it's actually, and yes, the breathing is important and you're trying, and that's important. But dealing with these emotions that are so strong with the anxiety, or whatever the emotion is, it's really important to understand where and how and why that's getting to us. So I'm not a fan of thinking that breathing and doing a meditation is going to fix your anxiety. And I know Samir mentioned that, for him, the meditation helped his anxiety, but there will be many times that the meditation isn't going to help your anxiety. There'll be many times that meditation isn't going to help your anger. There'll be many times that meditation might actually make your anxiety or anger worse if you're just sitting with it and focused on it. So the real challenge, Cynthia, which I know you know as well, but just to share with everybody, is that we have to begin to understand what are we doing and how are we going through our daily lives that are causing us to get so wrapped up in anxiety or anger or frustration. Because you can be in this world and experience everything that's going on around you without having it destroy you. And that really doesn't have to do so much with meditation. It has to do with your understanding that everybody chooses to live their own life how they want to live it. Yet we spend so much of our time fighting and battling others and telling them how they should live their life. And that never works anyways. So what I've learned through this, well, I shouldn't say that never works, but that often doesn't work. What I've learned through this Buddhist practice is to focus on what can I control. I can control the visual stimulation. I can control what comes in through my senses and how I respond to them. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. I can control these things. What I look at, I can control. What I listen to, I can control. What I smell, I can control, or at least move away from or move towards. What I taste, I can control. And what I think, that's the hard one, but I can control that as well based on all the other senses. What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I taste, what I touch. These things are the things that impact what I think. So if we see, hear, taste, smell, touch terrible, disgusting, gross things all day long, and then we go meditate, it's not going to help you much. we have to work more diligently at what we're doing when we're not doing meditation, and finding a balance. Last week, somebody asked about balance, and finding a balance in understanding there are things that we do to go through our day that maybe we don't enjoy them, we don't love them, but they're part of our lives. And then we have to find a balance with other things that we enjoy to keep us inspired and motivated. So, yes, Cynthia, breathe. But again, it's the focus on, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, what are we seeing, hearing, tasting, touching all day long? What are our senses doing? And this teaching comes from what's called the Heart Sutra. And it talks about no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, no sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. No realm of the eye, all the way up to no realm of mental cognition. And for me, what this is referencing is gaining control over your senses versus your senses controlling you. So hopefully that's helpful. Keep breathing, and you'll be okay. Someone who's still new, that was so needed to make me feel welcome and in the right place. Good, Jim. I'm glad that helped. And, the Dharma Bum Temple has been around 14 years. And since March, we've gone to this virtual setting. So it's really challenging, I know, with people connecting virtually. And you see a little tiny circle with somebody's, face in it, and a name next to it and a few words. And that's often really hard to feel connected to people that way. But it's what we have. It's, the best we can do with these circumstances. And, as Marisa and a few others have mentioned, we've worked really hard at creating a very accepting, welcoming space for all. That's really important to us. And even though it's virtual and you're basically isolated in your room or wherever you are, and you could hit click and leave us all at this moment, even in these settings, while we're in our own individual space, we're still collectively together. And so I think it's really important to kind of try, to really try to embody the same feeling, the same sense of love and care for each other, the same sense of welcoming that we would do if people were walking into a physical space and giving you a hug. Jim, if you walked into the Dharma Bum Temple for the first time ever, somebody would smile at you and probably, welcome you, give you a hug, or you'd roam around and, kind of hide out and sit in the back and check things out. And eventually, you feel welcome. But acceptance and feeling welcome at places is so important. And for many, over the course of their lifetime and centuries, really through spiritual religious practices, often we see people who have not felt welcome at other places for various reasons. So, all right. Hurting other people is the only way some people know how to be seen. This quote rang true to me because kindness doesn't come easy. I've learned to take care of myself more. So I'm kinder. Hurting other people is the only way some people know how to be seen. For me, what this practice has done is it's been a reflection on myself, my ego, my pride, and how I function and how I show up in the world. And for me, as somebody who grew up as very much a bully and being very mean to other people, I can fully relate to that as you are hurting other people or doing things that draw attention to you, it really kind of gives you a false sense of security and some twisted sense of pleasure, or I think attention really is the best word that comes to mind right now. That, as the Buddha taught, we're so wrapped up in ourself and our ego that's what we want to bring to the forefront. And being kind gets overlooked very often, but when you're mean and angry towards people, that gets noticed. So when we hurt people, we definitely get attention, and often what we crave the most is attention. So I think that when you see other people that are doing things that hurt people, it's really important to understand that very often they're hurting people because they are lacking something. Um, Maybe they're lacking the love and support and care that maybe somebody else got growing up. Maybe they were never taught how to respond to people with kindness or compassion. We all here today have done things that have harmed others. And so it's important to understand that when we do things to harm others, we are hurting. So when other people do things that harm others, they're hurting. And I found this lesson very critical for making sure that you're very careful these days about running around and being so hateful towards others, because we can be very good at justifying why we hate others and say, well, they do this so we can do this. I don't get anything in the Buddhist teachings that say that. What I get from the Buddhist teachings is that the more harm other people do to you or others means they just need more love and compassion. They don't need more hatred and anger. If they're coming from a place of hatred and anger, they've had enough hatred and anger in their whole lives. They don't need more from you. They need your compassion. They need your love. They need your kindness. They need your support. Again, going back to my earlier comment, to me, they need a Buddhist temple. So you open your doors, you open your heart, you open your mind to all these people. When someone shows up at the Dharma Bum temple, I don't ask them who or what they believe in. I ask them to explore the nature of their mind and the nature of their actions, and that's it. It's like the child who acts badly because negative attention is better than no attention. Absolutely. It's that seeking, craving, desiring attention. Clarify about meditation. Understand letting go of thought. Focus on breath. That I've heard you advise not to escape what you're sitting with. All right, let me respond to this, and I want to go back to the dealing with loss question. Yet I've heard you advise not to escape what you're sitting with. Well, if I'm understanding the question correctly, so I'll just touch on this a couple different ways. One, I often talk about when you're dealing with anger or sadness or whatever the emotion is, to be with it, to not try to escape from it. So if I'm angry, don't go do something when I'm angry, because that's just going to cause probably a lot of pain. So be with the anger, sit with it, breathe with it, know what it feels like. What does this anger do to my heart? What does it do to my hands? What does it do to my legs? What does it do to my head? What is anger doing to me, or anxiety? Just to be with it. Now, when I talk about being with these emotions, I'm not specifically talking about meditation in itself, right? Often if you're angry and you want to do a meditation, that's okay. But I'm just talking about throughout your day when emotions arise, to just recognize these emotions and learn to be with them, because they will pass. The Buddhist teachings on impermanence tells us that every anger will pass, every judgment will pass, every anxiety will pass. So try not to escape when one emotion arises to something to try to fix instantly that emotion, because it's just going to cycle back, right? People deal with addiction. They get, maybe anger arises, they turn to the addiction. And then they get that instant gratification, that instant fix. But the anger is still there, and it's going to continue to arise. So we have to dig deep at understanding what the anger is, or whatever that emotion is, and allow that to settle and to move out of us. But with the meditation practice itself, all thoughts and emotions will arise. So sitting and breathing, thoughts arise, recognize, back to breath. Sitting and breathing, thoughts arise, recognize, back to breath. Sitting and breathing, thoughts arise, recognize, back to breath. So the actual meditation practice itself, I'm talking about recognizing all of the thoughts, all of the emotions, everything that arises, and work on letting it pass just like an airplane. Someone years ago said they love, or a metaphor they shared, I thought was a great one, was when you have thoughts in meditation, that they would visualize the thought arising. they would visualize an envelope, and they would visualize putting the thought in an envelope, sealing the envelope, stamping the envelope, and sending the envelope off. And I thought that was a great metaphor for not ignoring the thoughts, not pretending they're not there, but giving them recognition as they arise, honoring it, seeing it, and then getting rid of it. And then right behind that envelope is going to be another thought. So I think, Jenna, these are two kind of different ways. One is to deal with the thoughts and emotions and anxieties and angers as they arise during meditation, and just to continue to let them pass. And the other is when you're going through your day-to-day life and you have these emotions, to also pay attention to them and maybe be with them for a bit. So hopefully that clarifies. So I'm going to take the last few minutes here and just touch on dealing with loss. There's a Buddhist sutra where a woman comes to the Buddha and her child has just died. And she is, of course, distraught. And the Buddha says, if you can, I want you to go bring me a mustard seed from someone's house that has not known loss. And obviously the woman is unable to do this. And what this teaches us is that loss is part of our lives. We lose loved ones. We lose parents. We lose children. We lose brothers and sisters and friends and cousins and aunts and uncles. We lose dogs and cats and turtles and fish. We lose spiders. We lose cockroaches. We lose our keys. We lose our phone. We lose our mind. We lose our shoes. We lose everything. It is part of life. And with birth comes death. I know that sounds so harsh, especially for those who might be new, someone like Jim, but that's the reality. The Buddha said we are born, we age, we get sick, and we die. Now there's lots of fun stuff sprinkled in, and there's lots of pain sprinkled in, but that's the general idea, is that when we are born, we are guaranteed to experience loss. And for me, loss has always been something that I try to use as a motivating factor to appreciate everything and everyone in our lives currently. Because anyone that we've lost in the past, maybe you go through these thoughts of, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had said this, or I wish we had gone here, or I wish this had happened. So everyone in our life right now at some point will be gone, as hard as that is to accept and embrace, including ourselves. Same thing applies to ourselves. Appreciate yourself a little more. Love yourself a little more. Be kinder to yourself a little more. Be gentler to yourself a little more, right? Try to stop beating yourself up so much. For God's sake, Cynthia, well, it's a bad time to do this, but go somewhere, right? Get in your car, drive to a mountain. Look at a big tree, and then turn around and drive back, right? We push and push and push, and we just destroy ourselves emotionally. So understand that we will lose everything at some point in time. So what are we holding on to things so tightly for? Why are we so attached to them? Why are we so afraid of losing them when we know they'll be lost at some point? And why are we not appreciating them and taking care of them the way we know we can? And when people and everything else I've mentioned does end up ceasing to exist, again, impermanence, everything comes together for a period of time and then ceases to exist. When they do, understand that everyone lives in our hearts and lives in our minds. We are attached to physical form, so we may not be able to see physically or touch physically people that we love, but they exist in our minds and in our hearts. And if that's the case, then they never die. Thich Nhat Hanh has a lot of beautiful teachings about birth and death, and he says, no birth, no death, no coming, no going. No beginning, no end. This is a lot. I don't know how much he studied, I'm sure, but Nagarjuna's teachings on Buddhism, 4th century philosopher. fundamental wisdom of the middle way, and no beginning, no end, no coming, no going. So don't waste any more moments fighting with people and fighting with yourself. So I'll end on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained be transferred to those who need it most. So just a quick announcement before you all head out. Thank you for being here. My name is Jeff. I am a Dharma bum. Nagarjuna, Nagarjuna. And Thich Nhat Hanh is the teacher. ThichNhatHanh. Thanks for being here. We started, as I mentioned, the Dharma Bum Temple 14 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. So we do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different classes. Everything now obviously is virtual. We've moved about 90% of our schedule, which is amazing. In some ways, people think the community is, scattered, and in some ways, I think our community is stronger than ever. We have Michelle in Greece, we have Samir in New York, and wherever else you all are. So it's really beautiful to sit with so many people. Look at the website, has our schedule. If I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. Really is the heart of this practice. Please wear a mask, stay home, except for Cynthia, who's going to get in her car and drive somewhere today. I wish you all well. Be safe, and that's it. And we have more light. Thank you all. Now I know to put the light on.